Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of In Range. We're at a two-gun match, but not the normal two-gun match. This is a very unusual event. Every once in a while, every couple years, we'll run a two-gun match that is shotgun and pistol. And we have very different rules than three-gun. Once the shotgun is dry, you have the option to reload it or transition to your pistol.
And it must be started loaded at full capacity.
And it must start loaded to full capacity with whatever the largest feeding capacity device you plan to use on any stage is. So if you wanted to use a 20-round drum, you start every stage with a 20-round drum, and you fire the shotgun until it's empty, or proactively reload if you're not going to transition to your pistol. But the idea behind this is to bring the shotgun back into a semi-practical use environment, but at a match. Unlike three-gun, where people like do select slug drill, or they just ditch the thing wherever they want. In real life, if you were using a smoothbore for combatives and you had a pistol, unless something was wrong with this,
Or
I don't
you
know,
run out of ammo.
or you just have an incredibly constrained environment, which is unlikely, why would you ditch it?
Right.
This, of all the things when you talk about stopping power, statistically, and shotguns are in the 98th percentile with the right ammunition. So you would not get rid of this if you had ammo in this.
Right.
And that's how these range rules, this how this match rules, these match rules are designed. We're going to see buck shooting, buckshot, slug, even at distance. We're talking out to 100 yards, and birdshot if you want it, as well as pistols. Now that being said, there's no requirement to ever transition to a pistol. I don't have a pistol. I've got this, which is two 10-round Saiga mags, jungle taped together, all Russian style, and 2 reloads on my belt. If I can't make it through a stage with this, I'm doing something wrong.
Yep.
And you have?
I have the exact opposite. I've got a greener police gun, a single shot martini action shotgun, made in the 20s and onward after that, and used by a lot of like colonial police forces. And then I do have a handgun to go with it, and that's an Inglis high power.
So we're not at the extreme ends of technological spectrum, but we're close. I mean,
Pretty
earlier
close,
than this
yeah.
would be like an old coach gun from the 1880s.
Yeah.
And this is maybe not the most modern shotgun, but you're working towards it. I'm using, by the way, Krebs iron sights. I used to have optics on this, and these iron sights are actually really cool. It gives you like an aperture and an AK sight picture on a Saiga 12. More evidence that I hate the AK, shooting another match with an AK. Anyway, so we're going to get to the stages. They're going to be unique and interesting, and hopefully you'll find out something about watching them.
Yeah. Let's go for it.
Let's do it. All right, this is stage 1. Shooter starts with fully loaded shotgun held at low ready at position A, which is behind the leftmost barricade. Shooter may use buckshot, slugs, and pistol on this stage. No bird shot. Procedure. Shooter will land up navigating through all the sticks between positions A, B, C, D, and E. At position A, first barricade will be standing, firing from a side of barricade A. Position B, which is the table on its side, will be kneeling, only firing from the side of a table, not above the table. Position C in the middle will be prone, under the barricade. Position D is again kneeling from the side of a table, and position E is standing from the side of barricade E. Shooter will then engage the knockdown steel target that's at the back end of the bay while moving to position F, which is the final the barrel. Stage ends when shooter has successfully knocked down the knockdown target at the end of the bay. Shooter may transition to their handgun only if the shotgun is empty and remains empty at any time during the stage. Standard scoring on paper: best 4 hits count, slugs count for 4 hits. Each stick knocked over between positions is a plus 10-second miss penalty, and any steel plate left standing is a plus 10-second miss penalty, which of course is the last plate at the end.
Nice job. Very nice.
This one's interesting because pattern matters.
Yeah.
And the ammo selection matters. It's paper targets anywhere from 10 to 40 yards. Well, 35 yards.
It's so long. They were right at the back. Man, I think 40's legit.
And you have a choice here. It's a really kind of a challenging one. You use buckshot
Yep.
or slug, and how this works is you have the best 4 hits count,
Right.
minimum of 2 to neutralize,
Yep.
and slugs count as 4 hits.
Right.
So if you shoot slugs, you better be accurate, because if you put a slug in the -3, you've got your 4 hits, but you're getting minus 12 seconds of penalties.
Right.
If you shoot buckshot, if your pattern doesn't quite make it, you're going to have a problem too.
Yep.
Which is what just happened to me. I just shot a very clean, fast run.
Yeah. 32 seconds.
No mistakes on the part of me actually moving through the stage. 32 seconds, 3180. All of the paper, with the exception of the 40-yard paper, was pretty good. Don't know why, one of the paper targets at 40 yards had only 2 of my 8 pellets on the paper. So that gave me a -1, a -3, and 2 misses, which is 20 seconds in penalties. So I just went from a 31-second run to a 62 with all penalties added up. So that just, so someone asked me, what's the choke on your gun? I'm like, I don't know. It's one of the first Saigas that ever came into the country. And I'll tell you, I knew that the pattern was broad at that distance. I just hoped it would work. And it did on one, but not the other. But my answer is it's a Russian pattern. It's a Russian choke. I don't know. Russian choke. So I should have hedged my bets and fired a second shot, but I didn't, and so I cost myself 20 seconds of missed penalties.
Now, my approach to that exact same problem was I opted to use a pair of slugs for those 2 40-yard targets. And that's not necessarily super simple to do with an auto-loading shotgun. That's where you've got this whole select slug drill. Well, I have a martini. It only holds 1. Fire a round of buckshot, open it up, put in a slug, shoot a slug. It is absolutely no challenge for me to alternate types of ammunition. And I put 2 slugs both through the 0 zones of those targets and cleaned them.
I actually I was going to use slug on that stage. And I decided to go with buckshot because it turns out on a different stage I had a problem with the slugs. And I have this brand Rio slugs, and they're not properly working in my magazine. There's something wrong with them.
By the way, I tried Rio buckshot in this martini, and it seems to be slightly over length, and it wouldn't extract well.
So anyways, Rio.
Yeah, we're not buying Rio.
No, I'm done with that stuff. But that said, since I decided because of that problem, I went with buck. Now this is just how things work in a match. I went with buck, and it cost me that penalty. I should have shot a second shot. I feel if I had used slugs, I would have had a better score.
Probably.
But it is what it is, and that's what this...
Or just a second shot with buckshot.
Yep, and that's what this litmus test is at 2 guns. So,
you know, something to keep in mind is, and people don't always think about it, I believe, in a competition setting, if you've got a 10-round or 8-round magazine-fed automatic shotgun, semi-auto shotgun, it's very easy, it's very low cost for you to fire a second round at a target.
And I didn't.
And you didn't.
But that said, that's what's interesting about this match, and this being a 2-gun shotgun match. The way we run this is different than 3-gun, and it really brings out different qualities of how you should run a shotgun versus a rifle. And we see people today doing stuff where they're running it like a rifle, which is kind of what I did over there, quite honestly. I should have shot another shot. Or not knowing their pattern. I knew my pattern was bad, I just hoped for the best. And not understanding the shotgun, which then makes them think the shotgun's not a good weapon, which is false, but you can take wrong conclusions because you haven't put the time in that you did with the shotgun that you do with the rifle.
Yep.
And stages like this
show that. One other thing we should point out, targets D, the 4th set, were deliberately set up so that if you picked the correct side of the barricade, you could shoot through. And while that's probably not practically legitimate, there's no way to prevent that with paper targets and shotgun shells. So that was a viable tactic, and that's why both of us only fired 1 shot on that 4th position.
While that may not be a tactic you would depend on in a combative environment, it still is something you should put in a match occasionally so you can be coherent about, or whatever, cognizant of shoot-throughs.
Right.
So this was not a no-shoot behind it. It was a shoot and a shoot. But it still meant that it was, if you were cognizant of it, you could save yourself a round by firing through them.
And that, I think, while you wouldn't normally run into that with actual targets, you could very easily justify that as a target behind a piece of soft concealment.
Yep. Or you could judge that as in a real-world environment, something behind someone that you don't want to hit.
Yeah.
That matters. Sometimes shoot-throughs happen, and if you're not cognizant of what's your target and what's behind it, that's a problem.
But at the same time, being cognizant of your target and what's in front of it, it's a legit skill to be able to say, my target's behind that stuff, where do I aim on that stuff to hit my target?
And do I know
behind?
that what I'm shooting, does it have the barrier penetration capability to do that?
Right.
So, like, for example, with brush, regular old brush, 5.56 can be deflected.
Yeah.
760 by 39 typically isn't. Does that mean one's a better round than the other? No, it just means they have different capabilities.
Right. Different applications.
Knowing what you're shooting and what's in front of you, what's in front of your target and behind your target makes a difference.
Yep.